management, or other host or
All right, we're getting ready to go live. We got Tim Russell in the big seat. Good hour today.
attention agents and business owners. Can you make heads or tails of workers' compensation? Very few people can. Listen to the pros, making agents and business owners smarter every Wednesday on Everything PEO.
Hello, 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 Tampa Bay listeners and beyond. You're listening to Everything PEO on Podcast Radio US Tampa Bay. I'm Evan Collard. We are excited to be here. The haze has lifted. Tim, last week when we started the show, you could barely see outside that Canadian forest. The haze out of control. Yeah. Out of control. But yeah, it's actually a little smoggy today. It's a good day to be in the studio. We're glad to have you. Last week, we had Heidi Sellers and Carrie Rath in studio with Next Level Administrators, one of the nation's largest third-party claims administrators. It was a real treat to have them. I know you know a little bit about Next Level, Tim, and but it was kind of neat to do a deep dive, really kind of go through how they customize options for favorable outcomes for both the carrier and the claimant. So I definitely want to thank the ladies for taking a moment and checking us out. But like always, we got to turn the page. In studio today, Tim Russell, president of Enterprise HR and a show sponsor, contributor, regular guest here now. Glad to have you, my man.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Always, always. Well, it's kind of a neat week this week. We've got NAPEO, National Association of PEOs. The conference, kind of their Super Bowl event, is in Tampa this week. Have you made your way over there?
Because in Orlando, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Orlando. Yeah.
No, I did not come over.
I did not myself.
I was busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's a big hubbub over there, and it's normally on the West Coast. So I had said to myself, I'm going to make time. I'm going to get over there. But like always, business got in the way. Including this show.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, no time to lay around. So, but I'm going to have to make it next year, especially if it's in Florida.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can fly out.
You know what? You're making me jealous. Quit zipping the plane and get over there and not have to do the I-4 corridor would be a blessing. So I'm going to hit you up next year.
That's fine.
Put it in stone.
That's fine.
Well, let's get into it a little bit today, Tim. Obviously, with NAPEO being this week, and there's all kinds of hubbub with the rate reductions, and really with the PEO service offering. I wanted to kind of throw this at you, right? You're a 20-year PEO owner. I think you know the business really as good as anybody, and I say that in a big way. I think on the front end of this business, I know it as well as anybody. But you know, you've kind of got this full encompassing, if you will. And that's really the biggest feedback we get from the show. Break down PEOs almost to an elementary level, not only what it means, but you know, the service offering, what it really does for these clients. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. What, in your opinion, is the strongest value proposition the PEOs bring to this space?
It depends on the PEOs, the way they'll want to add value to the market. It's the marketplace they're in, whether it's a very small business, construction related, businesses that need to be rehabbed for one reason or another, or then you've got ADP out there, or these big ones that they add a different type of value proposition. For me, smaller companies, construction related, risky businesses, we're just better at everything involving payroll and workers' comp than they are. You know, I would look really stupid trying to build a pool. It would go poorly, you know, and they're just not good at unemployment and workers' comp. And, you know, everybody's job is very complex when you drill down into it. Making a pizza is very complex if you're good at it. You know, they make it look simple, you know, but to sit in my seat and try and manage these, you know, these all these moving parts that are involved in payroll and workers' comp is I'm better at it than there.
Yeah, no, I say that a lot when I'm working with insurance agents. I would know the first thing about binding a general liability policy or a commercial auto policy, but as far as the PEO service offering and workers' comp, you know, I can bring it to you fast and easy. And I think there's a lot of ways to angle this business, whether it's through payroll or benefits, obviously. Distress workers' comp, which that's currently the angle that PEO Advisors strives at the most. But when you really peel the onion, whether it's comp, payroll, tax disbursement, claims management, health provider, you know, you get access to Fortune 500 benefits day one. I mean, there's so many ways to angle it. I guess it's kind of a loaded question because it really depends on the type of business you're working with.
It's the type of business, and you know, and the guy that's out there, with a small business, and I don't care how good his cousin or his wife or he is at payroll or renewing policies on time or paying taxes on time, it's not worth his time. We're better at it. We can physically do it for less money than he can. He's better off using us than not using us. The trick is to get that across to him in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like unless you've been down some of these paths, it's hard to quantify it, right? In the age of Patriot payroll software and obviously QuickBooks and things like that, everything's in a box, payroll in a box, right? Download this CD and you've got the software now and you're off to the races. But until you go down the path of an unemployment claim, right? I think the analytics say the average unemployment claim is 11 hours of man time, and that's just strictly your time getting through it, whether there's hearings or litigation or all of the above, right? And that dives even deeper if you get into unemployment claims. And really, I think everyone understands workers' comp provides wage reimbursement and pays the medical bills. Beyond that, the true inner workings of the injury, the process, I think very few businesses really don't know what that entails. So payroll software is easy. I think that may be the far easier component of this thing. But when you peel in the claims management and all that comes with that in a PEO, that's where you really start to distance yourself from more or less a third-party payroll provider.
Yeah, and like I said, everything comes complex the more that you look at it. And to go back to making a pool, I mean, I go out there, dig a hole, and throw some water in it. Nobody wants that. They want the guy with the experience, the knowledge, the talent to build them their dream. Nobody except me wakes up thinking about payroll.
Do you still?
I still do. I enjoy it. We have family. We have Thanksgiving with 9 of our 40 internal employees are at Thanksgiving dinner, and we love what we do. We're good at it.
All right, Enterprise does a great job at keeping that family feel. I think that's one of the best things I say about you guys. You're large enough to be stable, and I can confidently put business there and know you'll be here today and tomorrow, but yet you're small enough to still have that true touch, that customer service feel, dedicated payroll techs. You can call in and you have multiple people that are familiar with your file, and that little touch that's just lost nowadays. Right, that little touch is still there, that family feel, if you will.
It's difficult to throw out to a family-run business, auto body repair or tile setting, that, hey, look, you're going to call in, you don't have any idea who you're going to talk to. My clients call in, your clients call in, they know exactly who they're going to talk to. That person on the other end knows that Uncle Joe's got a $100 loan that needs to be paid back this week. We're going to take 2 weeks off because it's deer hunting season. Those things happen.
It does.
And our owners, our clients, your clients call in knowing exactly what they're going to get.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Well, speaking of NAPEO this week, recently we had Pat Cleary, president of NAPEO, on the show over the summer, and he had mentioned that the PEO industry has literally quadrupled in size over the last decade. He's been at the helm for about 12 years, but he's stating over the last 10 years, the industry has literally quadrupled. So having you here today, I thought it was a good time. Why do you feel the PEO space, I mean, it's been around since the 70s. So why now is it finally getting so much traction?
Because the red tape, the legislation, the amount of paperwork involved in owning your own small business is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
compliance.
Just, the salespeople are better. We've got a longer track history of being exactly what we say we're being. We're an added proposition. We're an added value to these companies because, again, we can do things cheaper than they can. But the very first time they have an unpaid tax bill, a late bill, or they get involved in a really nasty workers' comp or unemployment claim, people come into the PEO business and they might move from PEO to PEO, rates, whatever. Maybe my company doesn't offer the kind of benefit that they want, but they don't leave PEO. They never go back on their own.
Yeah, that's fair. We get almost all of our business from insurance agents for whatever reason. They can't find coverage. Their rates have surcharged. Very few, less than 5% of the accounts, once they come into this from a standard market policy into the PEO setting, end up rolling out. And if and when that happens, of course, there's natural attrition. Businesses sell, they go out of business. But taking that dynamic out of that pie chart, if you will, it's usually the insurance agent that sets that process up of rolling them back into the monoline policy. It's rarely because the business owner says, I see the value of this, but I still would rather take all that on myself. Almost never have I heard that.
Well, I mean, you've got a lot of people out there that are very concerned that even though they might make pizza or they might own an auto body shop, they're still good numbers people. And as a business owner, there is an inflection point where it doesn't make sense anymore. You can do it as cheap as we can, or you just like it doing it, and you might be okay at it. Those people have to go.
Yeah. Well, you're listening to Everything PEO on Podcast Radio US Tampa Bay, brought to you by Enterprise HR, one of the nation's premier and longest running privately owned PEOs in the country. In studio today with us, Tim Russell, talking Everything PEO. So we just kind of tapped on that, right? Every once in a while, we'll have an insurance agent want to roll the business back out. They brought it to us, whether we saved them, they were having a claim severity issue, a frequency issue, payrolls were out of whack, whatever that reason for bringing the deal to us. Fast forward 2 or 3 years later, there's that moment where the agent will bring it up and possibly roll it back out into the standard market. So especially after hearing how well the industry's done the last 10 years with Pat, why would you say there's still insurance agents out there, and really, business owners in some cases, that still look at PEO as the second tier option?
It's education. The salespeople, brokers don't do a very good job of educating the insurance agents as to the benefits of moving their clients to PEO. They think they're going to lose control. They think there's not as much money in it. Once they get a few paychecks coming in, it's very difficult for them to go back.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the nod there. Thank you. And I do think that's the way that the industry is structured, right? You bring on the account, you turn it into the PEO, and they do all the heavy lifting from there. Very few brokers do that model like PEO advisors, where we will literally take the lead through the sales process, do the full physical onboarding, enroll all the employees, get all of that paperwork lined up, and bring it all the way until, essentially the day of binding coverage. But brokers don't have to.
They don't have to. And to be honest with you, I actually go looking for the brokers that don't. There's a reason. So, if I want a client that is not educated, it doesn't want to do this, we actually save their time and money. It's the same thing with the broker. My client isn't the client. My client is the broker. So if I've got a broker that is inept, doesn't do paperwork well, that doesn't take as much care in onboarding and bringing me clients that are going to be profitable, we're just going to take the client from them and just do their work. Those types of brokers rarely leave us. PEO advisors is kind of an exception that you probably could run a PEO. It's maybe not your best option, but I've always said that the worst a broker is at their job, as long as they can present me the client, we'll maintain them.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, right? As the PEO, you're managing your accounts, but also servicing and facilitating that relationship with your brokers to keep them happy and keep them. And it's that same double-edged sword, for PEO advisors, right? We are relying on these insurance agents to get good feedback from the prospect, to say, wow, recommending us to PEO advisors, their team made it easy, got us on fast, really took us through the whole process. We want that next referral. We want that next nod. And so I feel like if there's this moment where you hand it off to the PEO, and granted, Enterprise does a great job, and don't get me wrong, several PEOs do.
There are plenty of good ones.
But PEOs are like any other businesses, right? They're ran poorly or greatly. And if they're not on the up and up in that sense, I mean, the person doing your onboard could be there 2 weeks in the industry. And I just never wanted to roll that dice, if you will, in hopes that their onboarding team would do it as fast and efficiently as us, right? Because if it rolls downhill as a poor experience, what's on the line there? That agent relationship, that referral partner possibly could kick the can down the street to the next agent.
Look, the top 3 to top 5 brokers operate similar to you. Now, here's the deal. You send me a client. There's no guessing what the pricing is. There's no overselling. There's no misinformation. There's no nothing. That's easy for us, and because of that, we can price you differently. But when we've got brokers who are either new, misinformed, not good at what they do, but they still bring us a client, we just take it over, and they might not get as favorable our pricing. They're still their clients. Our client is the broker. When we don't do anything special for the actual end user. This is what we do. It says it in the agreement. We do it for this price. But other than that, we expect the brokers to maintain their client base.
Yeah. It's always, I never want to poke holes in the industry, but I feel like, even the way that I got in the business, and I know there's a funny story about how we met, and we'll get into that in the next segment, but, I was on a dart league on a Tuesday night, and there was a gentleman up there that worked with Southeast of all PEOs, and was just, touting his income and the process. And I'm like, we all put our pants on the same way. Put me in, I can do this, right? And I feel like that's really how this nod happens. There's someone that knows someone in the payroll business, whether it's the Paychecks or the ADPs of the world, and it's easy. It's payroll, not really taking that time to learn the insurance part of it. And for PEO advisors, especially, the engine that runs this thing is distressed workers comp, not payroll.
There's usually only one or two people at a PEO that understand how the mechanics of everything coming in and going out and the risk involved is how it works. We have some extraordinarily talented people in our office who are very good at their function in the company. But to know how things, offshore reserves and all these really minutia things that there's not. It's a rare skill to be able to operate this big piece of machinery. It's $200-300 million a year for even a company my size, and to find somebody that does it right consistently for a long time, it's very hard to find.
Yeah, it is. Well, we've got lots coming back after the break with Tim Russell. I want to get into this article that we were just looking at before going on air. The rate reduction hearing went very interesting. Business owners literally at the hearing pleading to not reduce the rates. Can't wait to get in that. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Thanks for sticking around. All right, all right, all right. We are back. You're listening to Everything PEO on Podcast Radio US Tampa Bay, brought to you by Enterprise HR, one of the nation's premier and longest running privately owned PEOs in the country. In studio today with us, Tim Russell. Tim, let's get right into it. These segments don't last as long as I wish they could, but
Sure.
Interesting meeting at the Office of Insurance Regulation. I know we talked a little bit about it a couple weeks ago when you were here about the 15% proposed rate reduction for workers' comp and really how this hurts businesses in a lot of ways. I mean, it's certainly going to drive a hard market. Carriers are going to be increasing rates, certainly more selective with underwriting, and that trickles down to a tougher market. And in some cases, it's harder for these businesses to find, favorable rates and insurance coverage, right? More or less. So no need to name names here, right? You can find this article on the insurancenewsnet.com, but at this hearing, there was literally, companies there, and in fact, a roofer, literally verbatim in this article, I am begging you to freeze the roofing rates. This is unheard of for me. Maybe not you. I know you've been in the game a little longer than but I don't know if the OIR has ever had hearings where people are begging for higher rates.
That's an example of a really smart, large business owner. He knows that the gross dollars that go into the pool that insures against injuries, the reserves, all the mechanisms that are acquired. I mean, medical costs haven't gone down. Legal fees haven't gone down. You want to take one of the riskiest jobs in America and lower the rate that's already non-compensatory, another 15 points. All that happens is that the people, who are not the businesses that are not insured to do that, okay, they can operate cheaper. Now you're taking all of his competition, lowering the floor and making him go down in order to be competitive. He knows there's going to be injuries. People fall off roofs. That's what happens. And they're serious, life-changing, multi-million-dollar injuries, and we have to cover them. And to do it with 15% less money next year, in addition to the 60% the past 8 years, it's not possible. Look, everybody can congratulate themselves in Tallahassee and pat themselves on the back. We saved you 15 points. At the end of the day, all that's going to happen 2, 3, 4 years from now is going to be a massive rate increase because the injuries won't stop.
The perfect storm is brewing. And for any listeners, again, I don't think you need to be an insurance specialist. This is a simple loss ratio calculation, premium earned versus claims paid out. The average ambulance ride is $10,000. The average broken arm costs $25,000. Now, we were talking about this off air, right? To get $100,000 in workers' comp premium used to be as simple as having $200,000 in the roofing payroll code, right? It was about a 50% rate, right? When I got in the business 20 years ago, it was a 50% rate. You have $200,000 in payroll, you got $100,000 in premium. Now it's about to be 10% or a little under that. You would need $1 million in payroll to get to the same $100,000 in premium.
No, that's true, but a little misleading because roofers used to make $12 an hour. Okay, now they make much more than that. So the payroll's inflated. The dollar's worth less. The payrolls are inflated, but it's absolutely, for me, it's a non-starter. I won't take a roofer.
Right.
Not that I don't like roofers. I was in the construction business for a long time. I understand the risk really well. And because I understand it, I would never take a roofer. Any PEO that does is better than me or misinformed.
Now, Tim, is that modest? I got you.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say only because at the rate buy, meaning if it was closer to the 50% rate per 100 that it used to be, would this be something you'd entertain, or this is a simple no matter what?
I would be one of the largest competitors for roofing out there if it was compensatory. If it makes sense, common sense. I know what these injuries cost. If it makes sense, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'm not in business to judge businesses. I don't even, if you bring me a painter, which we cover, I don't analyze that company or its employees. I already have 900 other painters. To add 4 more, what do I care? I already know that I'm going to be fine there. I can manage that. I can't manage a $10 roofer.
It's funny you say painting. That's one of those codes that I've always thought is seriously misclassified, meaning whether you paint indoors or you paint a 100-story building, same painting rate. Now, think about the guys that only do interior homes. That seems a bit unfair from the pricing model. I mean, I don't know what's going to be next year, but just a couple of years ago, it was still right around that same 10% threshold.
Yeah.
So it's just, you would think and again, NCCI, that's National Council Comp Insurance, more or less our governing body on codes, definitions, and dictations, would find a way to carve that out for interior and exterior.
You can't do it, because anybody that paints, then they would take an interior job for them to say, I'm not going to bid on an exterior job. This just doesn't happen. They're going to take it.
Yeah, well, I guess.
I mean, well, that's the reality of it. I mean, I was in construction for a long time, and the big companies that have got scaffolds or cranes that'll paint a 15-story building, that's a different animal than the three guys in a truck who do a good job. Okay, and they're happy with the repainting of the closet. Hey, can you do the exterior too? Give me a quote. What are they going to say? They're already there. They're going to take the job.
And that's what I was, I guess, leaning more towards. It clearly takes a lot of equipment to do an exterior high-scale painting job versus I'm going to come in, do some remodeling, and repaint the whole inside of your house. But anyways, enough on painting. But yes, even when I got in the industry 20 years, even painting, I want to say was just under 30% per 100. It was like 27%.
74 was in the high 20s. Yeah.
Yeah. Nuts.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how the rate decrease may affect the business owners, right? And may make it harder to buy certainly monoline policies. But what effect do you think this is going to have on the PEO space, if any?
So, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, and every PEO operates differently. We, for the longest time, we're very conservative. We save our money, this, that, and the other. As the rates went down, we trimmed the type of risk that we would take. And we've always, it's not luck, we're actually pretty good at managing the injuries. We have about a 40% loss ratio, so you're going to be okay with that kind of thing. If you're a new PEO, like today, getting into this business, I don't envy you, because you don't have the premium. You have to take risk in order to get the payroll up. It's the worst adverse selection situation I could possibly imagine. To open a PEO right now that'd be rough.
Yeah. It's like anything. You have to be more selective, just like these carriers are going to be.
It's going to dramatically limit what you can take, though.
Takes a little bit of luck too.
A little bit, yeah. You got to be good and lucky.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to stack pennies in the business. That I know for sure. It's been a great industry for all of us, especially everybody in this room. So, well, you're listening to Everything PEO on Podcast Radio Tampa Bay, brought to you by Enterprise HR. In studio today with us, Tim Russell, talking Everything PEO. So, I'm just curious, man. I got to throw this out there. You've owned a PEO for 20 years. Yep. You're very seasoned. You have several side hustles, several businesses. Mm-hmm. If there's one thing you could change about the PEO business, what would it be?
The regulation. My personal opinion is that we're not correctly regulated. If you took the financials for any sophisticated PEO and presented them to an actual regulator, we could pretty much convince them of anything. Once every 2 or 3 years, you'll see a PEO that goes out of business because they were running 2 cents of books and hadn't paid their taxes and are $200 million upside down. It's rare, but it happens. Oh, yeah. That should never happen. We're a daily remitter of taxes. Our books are audited. We have 4 PEOs, and each one of them is audited each year. I have to sign financial papers that put me at personal risk for financial misdoing. And not a PEO operates that way.
Sure. And I think on the outside looking in, especially insurance agents, right? We talk about insurance agents and trying to get them to understand this business almost on every show in some capacity. And I think they look at the PEO business as really like the wild, wild west, how quickly we can manipulate the codes and increase or decrease suitor rates, state unemployment rates, and add discounts to comp because we don't necessarily have to price off the mod. And I know the policy itself is heavily regulated. But the compliance and the regulation in the PEO space, I think, oftentimes looked at as a lack thereof.
Yeah, for the longest time, for many years, I tried to get the brokers to band together, unionize, whatever they need to do in order to have some sort of standard, some sort of good practice. It never caught traction. I don't think it ever will. The broker side of it is unlicensed. There's no education for it. There is no repercussions for overselling or doing anything. It is, that's really the Wild West is you guys. You guys do it well. Yeah. The PEOs, we're regulated, but if you want to be shady, you can get away with it. It is it is largely unlooked at because, for the most part, the whole industry operates very well.
Yeah, my partner Eric Chikarelis and I, we carry errors and emissions insurance, like standard insurance agents binding comp policies is required, even though it's not required. We just felt like if we're partnering with agents, we want to give them that comfortability that it's there. We want them to hand off the lead in good faith. But that is kind of neat and scary all at the same time, right? It's clearly very simple to manage or evaluate the size of a PEO by their worksite employees, how much payroll they're running, et cetera, et cetera. But there is no benchmark, no qualifier. No one knows how many brokers are out there, at what size, how much they're doing. Obviously we get feedback from some of the PEOs that we partner with. We're lucky to be on some of the larger end with a few of them. But we joke about it all the time. It's like liquor stores, they're on every corner. A lot of them are working out of their bedroom, and they have their sister-in-law come over a day or two a week, help them with paperwork, because kind of how we talked about last segment, you can sign up the account, you hand over the lead to the PEO, they do the full onboarding, they do all the processing post-sale, and you just sit back and receive a commission. I can't tell you how many accounts, when we get introduced to them, if they're already with a PEO, they haven't heard from their sales rep since the initial sign-up. And in some cases, this is 8 to 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty common theme. It's not a hard sell. It is work. I was the original salesperson for our PEO, and it's not a hard sell because the value proposition, especially back in 2000, was so big. I was dramatically cheaper than they could do things. Like they couldn't even get insurance, let alone cheap insurance. And so it used to be easier. The competition's tighter. There is a big disconnect between the agents, the brokers, the PEOs, and the client. There's very small strings that attach them, and it's usually their weekly payroll. Other than that, unless there's a problem, there is no communication. Usually,
it's tough. Even I just had an agent give us a deal just the other day, this week. And when I called the prospect and I was talking, they said, well, the agent said they don't have anything and that you could help me get coverage, but that I was going to be penalized by going with you. I said, well, penalized? Well, from a cost standpoint. I'm like, oh, you mean to do the payroll? Like, yeah, it comes with a fee, right? We had Kelly Anderson, co-founder of Florida Resource Management, on a few weeks ago, and we did a whole segment kind of going through the resume close, right? Yeah. For as little as $50 a week, you have an insurance specialist, a payroll tax specialist, a benefits specialist, a CPA, a claims manager. I mean, it makes sense.
It does, but the real value proposition for me and my clients is they call in, payroll takes literally, for some companies, 30 seconds. Some of them are on the same payroll every week. They just call and go, send it. So, it just happens. And it's one of those things that you don't recognize it until things go bad. Something goes wacky. We had a situation Friday where one of our positive pay situation didn't work correctly for a couple of clients. Things happen. But for the most part, the companies take it for granted, and the brokers take the clients for granted, and the agents take the brokers. I mean, it's just one of those. If it works, it works. You just don't see the value until you try and change, or you have an injury, or you get your butt in a sling, and the PEO bails you out. We got millions of dollars in earned retention credits for our clients. There's a zero chance that a 3-man tile crew in Miami is going to get an earned retention credit without our help. It's not going to happen. Their accountant wouldn't listen to them. They would call up to these companies on the radio all the time saying, hey, we'll get you your credit. And they just, 3 men, we don't want to talk to you. Yeah, but we got them the data. We filed the forms. We got the checks. The whole thing. And that right there, I don't think I'll ever lose those clients because we got them, some of them hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and I believe you guys are doing it and not taking a percentage.
We don't take a percentage.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of services out there.
It's their money.
Yeah. No, I've right. I actually just tripped over an article today, and there was a gentleman up in the Panhandle, I believe, and I don't want to say names, but it is out there. He got busted taking $9 million in ERTC credits. That's
a common theme. These people going out and buying cars and watches, and
Yeah. Well, it's Right? There's all those stories coming out of the pandemic funny money area, and they're buying.
Right. It's large government. Large government can't manage anything correctly. I mean, it just can't do it.
Yeah, it's tough. But so going back to that agent, this is not a new agent. This is an agent that literally I have been working with for over 15 years. That at one point we had nearly 100 accounts together.
He gets a real check, right?
Real check. We're talking 5 figures a month.
Real check.
Okay. And
you wouldn't get that from comp, I promise you.
No, I don't. Right. I mean, it's nuts, and it's still positioned that way. It really does it a disservice. So on top of the people that get into the business and only learn half of it, and then the agents that cannot even get out of their own way sometimes when teeing up this business. I mean, it just shocks me that it's still looked as a second tier. It really does.
In business, I've found that contrarian thinking usually will win because most people lose at what they do. So, when you say 9 out of 10 restaurants fail in 2 years, or 8 out of 10 businesses fail in 5, whatever, right? Well, what about the other 2 or the other 1? They thought differently, and to me, any time we can turn something around, like an agent who doesn't understand something, and get him to think correctly, he'll be ahead of the game 100% of the time. It's education.
Yeah, no, it's needed. It's needed. I wish the agents would do more of it. But the reality is we're talking different languages, right? They talk premium, we talk payroll, and there's a massive disconnect there. And you would think, again, although I don't sell general liability policies and I don't sell health insurance, I have seasoned myself enough to talk intelligently about it for at least 3 to 5 minutes.
Sure.
To be able to give a educated handoff if or when it's applicable. And you would just, I guess, assume that if you're going to partner with an agent or a PEO broker and you're in the moment of handing these off, you're doing it in the right manner, right? No, I can't help you and I'm sorry. And I've got this other solution. I know you may not want it or it comes at a penalty, but it's almost like they can't get out of their own way with it.
It's true. A lot of it is just basic math. I've literally sat in front of agents before and said, would you rather make half a point of payroll or 3 points of a comp policy?
Yeah.
And they've got to bust out a calculator for that. And I don't understand that.
Fair. No, fair. And in that moment, that's when, we can talk about this after the break, but I've always said if I wasn't silver-haired and borderline on retirement, when I really figure out the PEO industry, partnering with someone the right way and seeing how well it is affected, how they don't make a total pivot right over. We got one more segment with Tim coming back. Stick around after the break. Thanks. All right. We are back. Jose Gonzalez, we see your comments. Thanks for contributing to the show, my man. He's on the live stream. So you are listening to Everything PEO on Podcast Radio Tampa Bay, brought to you by Enterprise HR. We are off next week. I just wanted to kind of put that out there. We're going to be doing a rerun. I'm going to the EO Nerve Conference. That's our employers organization I'm a part of. Got some really great speakers coming in, and it's like their Super Bowl event. This is the first time it's being held in Tampa. So going to go check that out. But so, Tim, we kind of teased on our last show how we met. And I had 2 or 3 messages that they wanted to hear that story. So,
Yeah, so I'm driving around Clearwater, Pinellas Park area, 66th Street, and I decided to stop for lunch. At this point, 2001, 2002.
Maybe 3.
So I had just gotten to the point where I wasn't selling anymore, and I was bringing brokers on. My previous company, I had a large construction company where I had 25 salespeople, 75 telemarketers, and I would rather set myself on fire than have salespeople again. So we went the broker way. And so I stopped at lunch at, what's the name of that place?
I think it was Wing Street. Wingstop. Quaker
State and Loop. State and Loop. So go there. I like old cars. I've got a few of them, and they had some cars out front. And I park, and there's what kind of car was it?
That was an Infiniti G35 wrapped
with nothing but employee leasing and workers' comp and ugliest car you've ever seen. So I got to go find this guy. So I go inside, and I literally went table to table. Is that your car? Is that your car? Is that your car? Finally found you and Dave, and I said, "Hey, can I sit down?" And they go, "Why?" Because I own 4 PEOs. And I had a pretty good value proposition. We're gonna pay you. You can set your own rates. There's a lot of things you could do. We have a little more flexibility than most PEOs. I understood the sales part of it, so we treated the broker as the client. You can make as much money as you want. You can sell it. God bless you. I'm going to give you my base price. This is what I want. This is what I'll do for it. And we cut you loose, and it turned into it. For a long time, you were the biggest broker.
Yeah, it's it really kind of changed my evolution in this business. That was the first time where I had a PEO really kind of sit down with me, soup to nuts. How you can price your model. Here's how the add-ons. Here's how you can build margin into the deal. And I don't know if you really expected us leaving that lunch and having every day built in with every threshold for applicables. But I mean, we changed our quoting template, and really we're off to the races pretty fast. And it's been a heck of a run. I think that
to this day, I'm familiar with the other PEOs in the marketplace, and for the vast majority of them, they're very good at what they do. They're very honorable people. They keep their word. I mean, the majority of my business is on a handshake. I've got 30% of my brokers that even have a contract. We pay them every week on time, 21 years. And that can't be said about every PEO.
Yes, no, believe it or not, I have felt the brunt of that.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a PEO get assumed, and a sizable 5-figure a month check, and it was paid out 3 times and then just never came again. So I have felt that.
Well, to speak to your industry, a lot of people don't realize this. There's no education, there's no license, there's no certificate, there's no online course that you can take. It's sales. And it is a job where, as a high school student sitting by the pool with a cell phone, you could make $100,000 a year. Could.
Sure.
And that's not like the 1%ers. That's the people that stay in the game, do it correctly. And it's a limitless opportunity with almost no downside. You almost have no ramification. You have no legal standing in the whole situation.
Fair. Yeah, the money lag is what makes it a 90% turnover business more than anything else. Not about how hard it is, not about any.
Most people are not salespeople.
Fair.
Right.
Fair. And that partnership ended largely for that reason. Not that it wasn't a great run. We both came out of it better than we went into it. But he did the back office. I was in charge of sales. And we're hiring tennis coaches and book editors and son's soccer coach, and I can't make all of them into salesmen. And we learned that very quickly. And largely that was really the only reason why we parted ways to do it our own way, because
this is a cold call. Type B personnel. You're going to talk to a business owner, and you've got to get his attention in 5 seconds. And you've got to make sense to him in less than 30. It is a very difficult upfront sale. Once they hear it and can internalize it for maybe 30 or 45 seconds, there's not a whole lot of selling going on. I mean, they're going to do it. They just got to understand it.
Fair. And that's where even a lot of agents don't understand. You may be going back to that last segment, you may be referring us to solve a workers' comp issue. But before you give all the downsides of the outsourcing the payroll, most of these accounts are outsourcing to a third-party payroll provider anyhow. So the value prop becomes very simple. We're taking two services, a comp carrier and a third-party payroll provider. We're putting them under one roof, oftentimes at a discount. We're stabilizing your costs. We're giving you affordable insurance. We're putting you in an audit-free environment. These become very easy upsides.
You just got to get to the right person. You got to get to the business owner who can make a decision and understands that value.
So I didn't realize, going back to our story, that was a tide turner for you, where you had made the mindset up of going broker business only.
Yeah, I had a huge Rolodex. When I exited the construction industry, I owned a window remodeling company. We did mostly very small jobs, but we had a big company. And so I exited, and I used a PEO. It was my wife's father-in-law who owned a PEO. The moment I sold that company, the entire market crashed. 2000. He lost a 9,000 person employee leasing company because of it. Whew. We started on credit cards, home equity loans. I didn't pay myself for 3 years.
No kidding.
And so I had a huge Rolodex, and I'm a salesperson, and I sold it. But it got to be unmanageable. It got to be to the point where I couldn't even do the paperwork, because I was the only one in the game with coverage. And we would write anyone because the rates were compensatory. I understood the math very well. I understand it better now. But I ran out of friends and family. And managing salespeople before is not a fun job. But what I found is I could sell a deal, call the nearest insurance broker, say, hey, I'm going to give you this deal for free. All you have to do is show up at the signing. They showed up at the signing. I gave them the $500 setup fee. I put them on as the broker, and I went my happy way. And once they had that check in their hand, a real check that cashed, those brokers, we went from 2 or 3 prospects a week. I remember this number. I had a week in 2004 where I had over 55 prospects a day.
Wow.
But again, talking about luck and being in the right spot, we were in a spot where rates were compensatory. We're the only game in town. We're the only one that takes these type of clients. And now I've got traction with the brokers, and that's all it took.
Yeah, and you've always done a great job with that. You've had the ship rolling pretty good for quite a while now. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
And it was a fun time back then. I remember this era, right? I was in the game in 2003.
That was the Wild West.
Literally, you had a business card. You rate 5 deals a month just cause.
Yeah.
And they would thank you for it. And every deal had a discount because the rates were so compensatory in a sense, to the point where I've had sales reps work here for several years, and we go to discount a deal, and they're like, whoa, you can do that?
Well, then the insurance companies didn't understand us. Okay, so we went to the insurance companies and said, hey, look, we want to share this workers' comp policy with our shared clients' employees. And they gave us, unbelievable discounts on large deductible policies. Like, that was not smart. Then they saw the type of money we were making, and they said, hey, we got to get in on that. And they did. And, it went overboard for a little while, and now it's back. And now we have, for us, we have a very good carrier. Our major carrier, Sons, is a fantastic partner. We have other smaller policies, but they're good. It's just a very difficult business to get into now. Again, Sons got a little lucky with when they got into the marketplace, and they're very smart people.
Yeah, we've had them on the show a couple times. They've been a great contributor for us. David Brodsky, chief underwriter. We had Meredith in.
Steve's a great guy. He understands our business. He lets us manage our policy because he's seen how well we've done it in the past. We have very little monkeying around, which is not the common policy. Insurance companies want to control your injuries and the way you do business. They leave us alone because they know we're good at it.
You were one of their original policies.
We were the original. We were the original investor.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, time was right. It was right.
Policy number one. We've been there 18 years now.
It's funny. We've just got a few minutes left. You're listening to Everything PEO. In the studio today, Tim Russell, president of Enterprise HR. It's funny, Tim. I still that broker word, right? There's still a connotation attached to that, which I don't understand anymore. I feel like in the world of outsourcing, sales especially, but we just had an account we pitched the other day and went through the variables and the cost and everything was fine. And at the end, the prospect was like, well, how do you make your money? I'm like, oh, this is no different. Just like an insurance agent, right? We get paid from the carrier. We get paid from the PEO. Just like if you sell car insurance or someone buys a health plan, the carrier. Well, but I'm paying more to go through you, right? You have to make your fee. Not understanding that brokers really, if anything, a discounted way to get this thing. It's a wholesale approach.
That's a natural thing. That's like somebody walking into, the Macy's to pick up T-shirts, and the person walks up and says, "Hey, welcome to Macy's." And the first words out of your mouth is, "I'm just looking." Even though they know where the T-shirts are, they know what's on sale, and they probably make it a third of the time for you. You want to do it directly.
And that's just stuck, right?
That's human nature. That's you want the endorphin rush of going out and picking it up, using your money to buy something and walk out. You don't want any help. Nobody likes buying new cars. Nobody likes going to a salesperson and says, "Hey, how can I help you?" Nobody wants to hear that. You're genetically programmed to not want salesperson's help.
Man, that is spot on. Because I think every single time I'm at Kohl's, that's the first thing you say, right?
Why would you do that? They're not good. It doesn't cost you any extra money.
Yeah.
And you can't do it directly.
Fair. Yeah, that's the big fix these days. Go on Amazon, find it yourself, get it for a little.
What do people do? They don't look at. To your point here, they go to Amazon and they don't look at the company propaganda. What do they go to?
The style,
the reviews.
They go
directly to the reviews and look at what people have no idea who they are. Could be shills, could be total BS, but they'll read those reviews and take them to heart, rather than go to all the facts and propaganda from the company that's,
it is so true. It's even in every commercial. We've got 50,000 5-star reviews. Ding, 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 ding. I'm in.
45,000 were purchased.
Right? Yeah. We got spam reviews. Come check us out.
Yeah, I don't even look at 5-star reviews. I look at 4 stars.
Yeah, I scroll down to the bottom to see the ones. You got to see what the worst is.
I look at the 4s. People don't understand the math, how bad a 4-star review is for you. They don't actually understand how bad a 4-star review is, because you'll never get to 5 again. Right? Just the first 4-star, boom, you're done.
And it snowballs.
But the person that would put a 4 as a star, they're going to write a why. That's the one you want to look at. The one are people who they didn't even order the product. The shipping got messed up. Whatever reason. But the 4s, those people really write a review about what their experience was with that product.
Oh, touche. It's funny. I know Enterprise hasn't spent a ton of time trying to necessarily build their social media brand. Break that down for me. When so many people are hot to trot on this path, why have you distanced yourself?
So I'll give you the short story. So when I was owned a construction company, every day at 6 a.m., I had to hire subs. Okay, they install the windows, they put the screen rooms in, whatever. I would go out and I'd let them come in, fill out the application to be a sub, this whole thing. And I'd walk out and look at their truck. And if their dashboard was clean and their tools were put away and it looked organized in that truck, I'd take them. But if they had 6 big gulps on the top there and the truck looked like trash, no thanks. We don't need you today. And they never understood why. So the social media thing for me, when we hire a 7-man or we take on a 7-man or a 5-man company, 3 of those dudes have got the same last name. I promise you, those dudes do not have social media.
Yeah, no, it's fair. You can tell a lot about the truck.
You can. You know a lot about the tools, what they present themselves, shirts tucked in, this, that, and the other. And, it's just, and it could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I know that is right because I know our loss ratio works that way. I know I didn't have losses at my company because of it. It just worked.
Yeah. We used to go on site a lot, right? I know I haven't done it as much anymore these days as the owner, and obviously having a great sales and support staff. But those first few years, everything was in person. I made sure of it. 3 years straight, put over 50,000 miles a year on my car. And I was always intrigued when you would pull up to the job site to do the enrollment, and they've got the F-150 on the souped up tires, on the the high low, the tow kit, the jacked up, and then 3 months later they can't make payroll and they don't get a draw. They're having a little too much fun and not really structuring the business that right way. All right, and it's like it. And then when things get tight, they start to trim the fat, shop insurance, save a penny here, a nickel there. If they would just have that mindset when the money's rolling in, right? And it goes to a lot. I think the PEO helps mask poor business practices in a lot of ways because we stabilize so many things, take so much of it off of their plate.
So now just expand that to the whole oversight of the OIR. For years, I had this money coming in, and for 2 years, just 2 years, 2020 and 2021, all the entries went down. Why? Because there was no injuries, but they're using those stats to justify the 15% discount and do a bad business deal. And it happened in 2000, happened in 2008, and it's going to happen in 2000, probably 25.
Yeah, right. Obviously, they got to pull out all these COVID-related claims, so the same amount
the COVIDs weren't even counted, period.
Period, the end, right?
Period,
and that's what skewed this 15%.
In addition to less business, they pulled the COVID out as emergency injuries.
Yeah, this could be an epic turn.
It could really hurt the industry. It could really hurt the industry.
Well, we're due for it. I mean, the rates are down 78% in the last, 19 years?
Yeah.
I know back in the 80s, there was 2 years back-to-back with double-digit increases. It feels like that's coming. Tim, it's been great. Thank you, our listeners. Check out our YouTube channel. We've been putting a lot of love into that. You know how the show ends. Love God. Appreciate your PEO. Be kind to your staff. And no, we are not on next week.
Where as another lesson comes to a close, another business gets smarter. Tune in next Wednesday at 6 p.m. so they can add your company to their satisfied group of savvy business graduates.